Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. For today's video, we are going to be talking about the AI narrative and why I think that the altcoins built inside of this trend are going to see the biggest gains this cycle. This is going to be something across the entire market, not only in crypto, but in stocks as a whole, as we position ourselves more and more towards the mainstream adoption of artificial intelligence. We are going to be seeing many of these different altcoins blowing up in turn. Today, we're going to be breaking down Bitcoin. We're going to be jumping into Nvidia, why this one going up into new all-time highs is going to surely signal new all-time highs for many of the top AI altcoins. And then we're going to be talking about a few of the bigger altcoins, and then I'm going to be sharing with you guys two of my favorite low cap picks that I think are going to be providing some very good upside potential very soon. If you find any value in this video, please do me a favor, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And if you do want to see any of these altcoins before I ever cover them on YouTube, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website for my VIP. Now guys, as we're jumping over here into Bitcoin, nothing has changed with yesterday's analysis. I left it on this chart just to share with you guys how we've pretty much followed to what we were mapping out in the shorter time frames. Seeing Bitcoin break above this level, we're just consolidating back on top as support, and this is really being fueled because of Ethereum, right? Ethereum has had all of the confirmation of the ETF approval that's going to be happening some point by the end of May, and as you guys can see, Ethereum has made an absolutely massive move. We just talked about Ethereum and why I believe that we are going to be finding a support level coming back down in here, and why Ethereum BTC was going to end up reversing. Now we ended up coming all the way back down to retest this ascending support, but this is coming after our first impulse of this new cycle. So seeing Ethereum BTC finally reversing, I think that this is the early sign that we've all been waiting for to know what the heck was going to happen with Ethereum, what was going to happen with the rest of the altcoin markets. Now with Bitcoin, we broke above the main level that we were needing to see. It's back above. We're probably going to end up holding this as new support in my opinion. And with this is going to set us into a move into new all-time highs. Now, I wanted to share with you guys not so much about Bitcoin or Ethereum. It's really great seeing those two break out. We've talked a lot about both of those, but we wanted to really get into the AI trend because I believe that this is going to be where we see many of the biggest profits going into this cycle. Now, Nvidia has been on an absolute tear. Ever since 2022 when the market bottomed, this thing has outperformed basically everything. It's outperformed Bitcoin, it's outperformed all the altcoins, and we've seen such a big push because all of their earnings have been off the chart. As we've seen so much adoption going inside of the AI trend, their earnings are just kind of skyrocketing right now. And we're actually about to see more earnings come out after tomorrow's market close. So we're about to be setting ourselves in for what, in my opinion, is going to be more bullish news. We're going to see that affect the markets, and we're going to see once this breaks out, Nvidia goes into a new all-time high once again. I firmly believe that that's where altcoins inside of the AI narrative as a whole are going to really profit, and see a lot more upside. As we're seeing the stock market being the SPX, the Dow Jones, even the gold markets, commodities are doing really well. We've also seen Nvidia and really a lot of the tech companies and that are positioned inside of this AI adoption, they're seeing a lot of the most upside potential. And so I believe that if we're seeing the most adoption inside of the stock market being around the AI sector, I only believe that that is going to fuel more adoption inside of the crypto sector. It will probably be one of the most profitable, if not the most profitable trend to be focusing on this cycle. One of the other things I want to talk about here is how the OpenAI CEO is seeking as much as $7 trillion in funding to be able to fund his next project. And this really due to the fact that there's so much demand for AI. And that's why we're seeing Nvidia skyrocketing, is because there's so much demand for these products right now. So I believe that as we're coming over here and looking at many of the top altcoins positioned inside of the AI trend, there's a real reason why they're performing so well. Fetch.AI has basically been the best performing one. You could maybe throw Render in there as the other option, and you could probably say tensor as the other one. These have been the three biggest performing altcoins inside of that AI trend, and I think that this is only going to continue to happen from here. Now, the big thing that we're looking at, and the reason why I talked about Fetch.AI all the way back down in here, and especially when we first started breaking out up in here, was because I was expecting the next cycle was going to be very impulsive. Now, the reason why is because I always tell you guys that these Elliott waves point a bigger picture and oftentimes tell us how big the next cycle coming is about to be. And the reason Fetch looked so bullish to me was because all we had ever done in the last cycle was finish a one-wave impulse. We had a wave 1, we had a wave 2, and then what that signals is that the next impulse coming is going to be your most impulsive one, the biggest one of the cycle. The most volume comes in inside that cycle. And that's pretty much exactly what we started started to see right here. In this next move, we're seeing a massive breakout, very parabolic type price action, on par with your typical wave 3 type of move. However, I think that this thing is still going to be going up from here. We've only finished, well, we're really only inside of this wave 3 still. We're not even finished with it. So I wouldn't be surprised if this thing shot all the way up to like 5, even, you know, it could get very, very parabolic. It's hard to predict these markets once they go into price discovery. So the big thing is we've already shattered all of our main targets, right? Because if we use Fibonacci from the high to the low, we can get the 1618 and the 2618. So we've already filled our targets. This was our minimum target being the 1618. The next target was the 2618. We filled both of those perfectly. Now, this thing still has plenty more upside, and I still think it's going to be going into a new all-time high. So the only thing you can really do is either look to target further extensions of this Fibonacci and then just kind of scale out based off that. But the big thing is I always like to just hold these cryptos when they go into new all-time highs. I'm not so much as looking into selling these right now because they've only just entered price discovery. If we're talking about all of this money worth of funding entering these markets, if we're talking Nvidia having positive earnings, even more bullish and shooting into a bigger new all-time high, we got to expect that all of these altcoins that have just done the same thing are just going to outperform even more. So you don't want to take a lot of profit right now. If you bought any of these things based off of my videos earlier in the year, now is the time where you really just want to be holding. I'm not telling you guys to sell at any point. We want to be holding at least, I would say, another 6 months to a year, and then we can reevaluate. If we're looking at, you know, Fetch at that point being worth, you know, 20 bucks or something. The thing is, guys, I've taken profits way too early on a number of different cryptos, and as Bitcoin's just entering new all-time highs again, we definitely want to do our part just by holding. We're much better off by letting the market decide how valuable these things are, letting them kind of run into their new all-time highs, because chances are you're not going to nail the exact top, and you're going to try to take profits, and it's going to be way too early if you're doing it right when we're looking at Bitcoin just barely entering that new all-time high, right? So I think that the most profit in altcoins is going to be made right here. So with these altcoins that have, you know, kind of already entered new all-time highs, they're outperforming for a reason. Hold on to them. Fetch is a really good project that we're only going to see more upside potential from here. Coming over to the next one, we want to talk a little bit about Render. Render is a project that I bought all the way back in the last cycle, coming all the way back over at like $1, and I think it was even less. I think it could have been the cycle low. Anyways, this is one that I lost when I got hacked in one of my software wallets, but I know a lot of people inside of my group are still holding this. So I'm really happy for anybody that still holds this, that ended up following it from my prior videos, because I even talked about it in the last cycle quite a bit. Seeing it outperform in this way, you know, this just goes to show why you never really know which narratives are going to pick up in a following cycle. You might be one cycle too early, right? You might be accumulating at the very beginning of something, only for the real big upside potential to still be another few years away. And I think that that's exactly what happened with people that have been positioned early into AI altcoins. Don't get me wrong, I still made like 17x off of Render when this thing took off, but nonetheless, everybody that's still been holding it from the prior cycles are now just up even more because it's been outperforming all of the rest of the markets. Seeing this going back into a new all-time high, we've just retested those prior all-time highs as new support. You know, we had a couple false breakdowns below that level, only to get, you know, pretty much bought right back up. In the shorter time frames, we just broke above this prior resistance level, made a new high, retesting it as new support, and I really think that this thing is about to be making another new all-time high like this. And in the same ways that we're looking at Fetch sitting here doing another big move, Render's in the same position where we don't really want to be selling it, as these things are just getting into price discovery. The real upside potential is just about to happen. So you guys definitely want to do your part by just mainly holding this stuff. Don't get too carried away by trying to take heavy profits, as many of the markets are just entering price discovery, being the stock market, being many of these other markets in crypto, being Bitcoin and stuff. These ones that have just already broken out, they're outperforming Bitcoin. They're going to continue to do that from here, especially like I've talked about during this first leg up for Bitcoin. You know, this is where the altcoins are going to finally get that shifting point where Bitcoin is going to rotate profits out of Bitcoin, and then they're going to put them back into altcoins. And that's what happens every cycle. You know, it might be 90 to, you know, it might be 85 to 90K before we end up seeing that rotation happen. But the altcoins that have already been, you know, seeing more adoption than Bitcoin has, that's going to happen to an even more significant extent once that flip actually takes place. So just be aware of that moving forward. The next one I want to talk about here is going to be BitTensor. BitTensor is one we got in at 76 bucks, all the way back down in there. So if you guys are ever wondering, how I'm investing, once again, if you want to check out anything on buying, selling, trading, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. Anything on buying, selling, and trading, I post it to my private group first. So if you guys want to know any of these things before I'm talking about them on YouTube, you got to make sure you're getting in there. But I've been talking about BitTensor since all the way back when we were first breaking out. So even if anybody's been following my videos, you'll still have made some profit off of this one. And we're pretty much just sitting right back, retesting that prior high, making higher highs and higher lows the entire way up. And I think that this thing is only going to continue to break out from here. It has 3 billion in market cap. All of these have multiple billions in market cap. So they're a little bit more, I guess you could say, overvalued. Not overvalued, but they're not so much as cheap either. They're kind of in a mid-range point where this could easily do another 10x from here. But at the same point, there's other altcoins that are in the AI narrative that are going to obviously give bigger returns. And so we want to be at least aware of that. But if you're looking for the safest picks in the market, BitTensor, Render, Fetch.AI, you can't really go any more safe than that. And they're not worth that much in market cap that I would say that it's a bad investment by any means. I still think that there's a lot more upside potential in all of these. What we've seen inside of BitTensor is just your standard sort of correction, ABC correction, right back down onto the prior highs. As we're seeing this next reversal takes place, I kind of think that, it's going to be all fueled around what we see with the Nvidia earnings happening after tomorrow's market close. So these three are the safe picks. Now I wanted to get into ones that are a little bit more low cap that I think are going to be providing some little bit bigger gains than these ones, and ones that you're definitely going to be wanting to keep on your radar as we get into this new all-time high in all of these markets. The first one on today's video is going to be Ocean Protocol. Now Ocean Protocol is basically the exact same as Fetch, and they just merged with Fetch.AI. And if you guys are going to notice the chart similarities, I believe that Ocean Protocol is right here before we get this next leg up. And so when we're looking at the chart, we can pretty much see that reflected right over in here. It's lagging right behind the Fetch chart. And this is the move that I do think is coming next. Now, I'm not trying to say exactly how high it's gonna go. It could come all the way up to $5. It might be a little bit shorter. It might only come up to $3. But regardless, these are the points where we've got our positions. We know that the AI trend is hot. We can see the ones that are outperforming. Ocean literally just merged with Fetch.AI. Like they became one universal sort of company to work together to promote more adoption inside of the AI trend. I don't know exactly what all of that entitles. You can look it up. I'm just kind of explaining you something that just recently happened. And so I think that as the price of these two have already been really similar, they rhyme and really just kind of follow each other, I think that it's only going to continue to do so more because of the merger between Ocean and Fetch. Now looking at this, we've already broken from all long-term descending resistance. If I make this a little bit darker so you can see, we broke out of that from this move here. Now we've already made a new high above that one. We're pretty much just sitting right back at the mid-cycle to high cycle range before we get that price discovery. So if you're looking for one that's a little bit more of a mid cap, this thing has about 500 or 600 million in market cap. So I would say that it still has quite a bit of upside potential, and one that you definitely want to be at least looking into long term because of the price correlation to the Fetch.AI chart. Now, once again, this is one in my group I've been holding since all the way back at the beginning of the last cycle. I bought this all the way back at 10 cents. It was when we first started breaking out of this bottom, and I've just been holding it ever since. And so this is another example of one of those projects where you can actually hold and you can actually get into projects in prior cycles. You can just hold through the bear market, and then oftentimes they're just going to end up rebounding into even bigger cycles into the following bull run. It doesn't always happen. We don't always know which ones those are going to be, but this is one of those examples that was, and pretty much all of the AI altcoins that I bought and held from the last cycle going into that bear market, they've all just ended up outperforming even where I bought them going into this next cycle. So that's something that's only going to continue to play out from here. There's a really not that many altcoins in the AI narrative, so you can find a lot of them right now and make a lot of profit. One of my favorites is going to be Mind, and this is going to be another one that's pretty much powered by BitTensor. So when we're looking at the Tau chart, this one's been performing super well, and this is basically a layer 1 for AI altcoins, and Mind is one of those that's actually built on it. When I'm looking at this chart, I really like this consolidation. It just to me looks like a long-term triangle. And all we did recently was just kind of come back down, reconsolidate back on that ascending support. and we're getting closer and closer to the breakout point. I think that that's what's coming inside of this next impulse. I thought that we were going to hold support back down in here. We ended up making one more low. However, it doesn't change anything. Our wave count is looking very bullish. We saw 5 waves to the upside, very powerful Elliott waves with an extended 3 and an extended 5. Saw your typical ABC correction back down, and now that we're at this point of reversing, I think that this candle, this red candle, however low it gets, that's where you're going to be wanting to buy. It might come back down a little bit lower. We might retest the low end of this support here, being wave A. And then from there, I'm pretty much just expecting we're going to be seeing a pretty big breakout into price discovery. Because with this being a wave 1, all we've really done is set ourselves up for the next big impulse, being the wave 3. So from the high, or from the low to the high, back down to the bottom of the cycle, we're going to be looking at a minimum target of the 1618, which is here. But the thing about this altcoin, guys, it's got a very small market cap. So these are just minimum targets that you could take profit and feel happy about. From where we're at right now to the 1618 would be almost a 4x. 2618 would be almost a 6.5x. So when we're looking at this, the upside is potential is still really big. Well, we got to remember that the market cap's less than 10 million. So we're looking at something we want to be holding into new all-time highs. I think that this is a project that's going to do really well. It's just been consolidating, accumulating with good volume, and the liquidity is actually really good. $1.17 million of locked liquidity on Unicrypt is pretty solid. Circulating supply is 80 million out of 100 million total supply. So almost all of it is circulating. You don't have to worry so much about huge, heavy unlocks. And so I think that the upside potential is going to be very big. Once we get above this range high, being this triangle, which is basically going to be around 25 to 28 cents. That's where I think we get that next big move into price discovery. It's one of these that I'm just going to be holding personally. I'm not really going to be looking to take profit at any of these fib levels. Although, if you're somebody that definitely wants to lock in some profit, that's where I would do it to start. The 1618 is just your minimum target going into a wave 3 impulse, which if we're following Elliott waves, this was a wave 1 and a wave 2. Wave 3 is going to be here. That's your minimum target. And then we'd still be expecting one more move after. So I still think we're going higher regardless. Oftentimes these wave 3s are going to be like this and just make these big breakouts. So I'm not trying to predict the price. I'm looking to just hold these because I think that the AI trend is just going to be super hot. You don't want to try and predict things too heavily. Now coming over here and taking a look at our last token on today's video, this is going to be Layer AI. Now the market cap is not right. This is also going to be another low cap crypto. If we come over in here and we actually look, type in Layer AI, we can pull it up on CoinGecko, and then this is going to be giving us a full chart as well, which let me get out of here and show you. We go to the max scale and we zoom out. We can kind of see this is actually the long-term chart because they've actually had a new token launch in the meantime since we're over here at this cycle low. And ever since then, the token's done really, really well. Now, when we're looking at this, the prior all-time high was all the way up here at 12 cents. And we went through this long sort of rounded bottom accumulation. And with our most recent breakout, I first talked about it during this move here. And, you know, pretty much at the exact price that we're at right now. And we made one more big move and came right back down to that same support level. We're sitting on top of this 25 cent region, which is also the bear market bottom. This consolidation that we were at for so long, we're just sitting on it as new support. And so when we come over and look at the chart, that's all we're looking at, is us consolidating right back on top of that 25 cent region. And I think that this is setting us up for a much bigger move. Now, keep in mind that the market cap's like just under $12 million. So that's why I say that there's a lot of upside potential. Now, there's a much smaller amount of circulating supply versus, you know, the total supply. So there will be future unlocks. But once again, guys, I'm not so much worried about those. It's something to definitely be aware of. But when we're talking about many of these altcoins just barely running into new all-time highs, I think that we're going to be early enough to not really worry so much about that. It's once you start getting into, you know, another year from now where these people start taking heavy profits, which is, you know, what everybody does. It's just the way the cycles work. Everybody takes profits. You definitely want to focus on cryptos where they don't have a huge amount of unlocks because they will totally wreck the supply when those unlocks happen. But I've also seen many cryptos, you know, just break out on unlocks. Sometimes it's already priced in. You can't always predict those sort of things. And that's why I say, you know, I've actually screwed myself myself out of a lot of money trying to sell because I was worried about unlocks. And so I think that more often than not, because we're so early in the cycle, you're better off not worrying about it right now. You know, if we're talking another year from now, for sure be worrying about it, because that's when those unlocks are actually coming out. That's when those founders are dumping, because we've already been 2 years plus and up in a bull market. So you have to understand where we're at in the cycles. And I think that with Bitcoin just barely going into this new all-time high, we're about to see so much money into these markets. With Nvidia earnings coming out day after tomorrow at the market close, I expect that we're going to see altcoins and the AI narrative blow up. Fetch, Render, Tau, the biggest ones. The next ones I've been looking at have basically been Ocean. I've been holding this since the bottom of the last cycle, still just holding it. With Mind, I think that this thing is setting up for a very big move, and we're pretty much at that final retest before we get it. And then Layer AI is obviously one that I really like as well, one I've already talked about, and I think it's setting up for the next leg up in this cycle. These are low cap picks. I think that these are going to profit the most out of all of the ones I just shared with you. So anyways, if you did find value in this video, please do me a favor, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. If you guys do want to see how I'm investing my portfolio, all of these altcoins I've talked about, whether it was at the beginning of the last cycle, whether it was now, you know, we're already up a lot of profit in Tau. If you followed my cycle, if you followed my analysis from Fetch or Render, you're up a lot in those. You know, a lot of these altcoins I've already talked about months and months, if not years ago in advance. So if you guys do want to see how I'm investing my portfolio, we make a ton of different profitable gains. When we're talking about the long-term cycles, we buy a lot of different things. We position ourselves early in a lot of different narratives, and then oftentimes once these cycles start breaking out, getting into new all-time highs, that's when all of the big profit is realized. So I'd love to have you guys a part of it. If you do want to get access, links are in the description. Go ahead and sign up on my website. I also accept crypto if you don't actually want to pay with a card. So once again, guys, thank you so much for the support. I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.